Hi everyone, I'm Monique. Welcome to New Bear. Today I'm showing my Christmas pattern for 2025. Many tatters, Aussie tatters included, often lean towards snowflakes and wintry motifs for their festive projects. But Christmas in Australia means summer heat, beach barbies and backyard cricket. So instead of snowflakes, I've designed a candle skirt, a centrepiece suitable for any Christmas table, whether you're celebrating in frosty weather or under the blazing sun. My free pattern can be found in the files of the New Bear Tatting Group on Facebook, and if you'd like to work your skirt in the same hand-dyed thread as mine, you can message or email me to place an order, or you can purchase the thread through Etsy. Meterage will vary depending on tension and colour placement, but to help give an idea on how much you'll need, I used around 52 metres of green and 20 metres of red. All the relevant links and contact details can be found in the description box below. Now, this is a long video. There are 16 flowers, just to get the hands warmed up. But I have broken it into chapters and included timestamps, so please use these and take breaks when you need to. I'll be using techniques which I will show on camera, but I won't go into full explanations for them because I'm trying to keep the length of the video down, and there are already tutorials for each technique on my channel if anyone needs a step-by-step guide. Again, these links will be included in the description box. Alrighty, you are going to need 2 shuttles, size 20 thread, 64 seed beads and a candle with a 10 centimetre diameter. Let's check out the pattern. We need 2 shuttles for round 1, 2 shuttles for round 2, 1 shuttle for the small flowers and 1 shuttle for the large flowers. I start every pattern by looking at the end, and that's because I like using magic loops to hide my tails. So I need to work out where the loops are going to go before I start tatting. You can, of course, sew your tails in if you prefer. As I mentioned earlier, we're working the flowers with 1 shuttle, so we'll have a start tail and an end tail to hide. I'm placing 1 magic loop at the start of ring A and the other magic loop at the end of ring F. Wrapping our hand for ring A, leave yourself a bit of a tail. And we're working 2. Include your magic loop if you're using one. We have a picot and then 6, picot 6, picot 2. We're not reversing work, we're rotating ring A slightly to the left and wrapping our hand ready for ring B. We have 2. Join back to ring A and continue with 4, picot 2, picot 2, picot 4, picot 2. Again, we're not reversing, we're rotating like we did before. To start ring C with 2. Join back to ring B. And continue with 4, picot 2, picot 2, picot 4, picot 2.
Rotate again for ring D, work 2, join back to ring C, and we're working 6, picot 6, picot 2. Rotate to start ring E. You might find it easier if you fold ring A out of the way. Start with 2. Join back to ring D and continue with 4, picot 2, picot 2, picot 4, picot 2. Rotate for ring F. Once again we have 2. We're joining back to ring E and continuing with 4, picot 2, picot 2, picot 4. And again, if you're using magic loops, don't forget to pop them in the last few stitches of your ring. We need to join ring F back to ring A with a folded join. So fold your work over. And come up from underneath that picot. I'm making sure my join goes around that magic loop as well. And finish ring F with a count of 2. Tail. Take the tail from ring A and tie it in a square knot with the tail from ring F. So a square knot, we're going right over left. Pull that in pretty tightly. It will make the rings buckle up initially, but it's going to mean our rings are tied nice and tight, and we can flatten the flower out again when we're done. We're going to take our tails through our loops. Trim them off. Now we can set that flower aside and go again. We need to repeat that process until we have 8 small flowers. The large flowers are made in much the same way as the small flowers, except this time we have beads. The beads sit on the picots, which means we need to load the beads onto our shuttle as we wind it. There are 8 flowers with 4 beads on each flower. We're going to need 32 beads. If you're using magic loops, their placement will be exactly the same as they were for the small flower. One will go into the start of ring A, the other will go into the end of ring F. Wrapping our hand for ring A, we're going to leave a tail like we did when we made the small flower. We need to have a bead on the loom thread, so just let that bead sit at the back of your hand while you work the first half of the ring. We're starting with 2. Remember your magic loop if you're using one. We have picot and then 8. Your bead up for your picot. Continue with 8 picot 2. Rotate your work. Make sure you have a bead on your loom thread. Begin with 2. Join back to ring A. Continue with 8, your beaded picot, 8 picot and 2. Rotating again. Ring C doesn't have any beads, so we don't need a bead on our loom thread. We're working 2, joining back to B, and we have 6 picot 10, picot 2. Rotating for ring D, bring down a bead, work 2, join back to ring C, and continue with 8, the beaded picot, 8, picot 2. Fold ring A out of your way, start ring E, nearly forgot my bead, make sure your bead is on your loom thread, and start ring E with 2. Join back to ring D, and again we're doing 8, a beaded picot, 8, picot 2. Ring F doesn't have a bead. We're starting with 2, joining back to ring E, continuing with 10, picot 6. So once again we're working a folded join to connect ring F to ring A. Work the last 2 stitches and close your ring. Now we tie and hide our tails, exactly the same as we did for the first flower. doing a square knot, right over left, left over right, or the other way, it doesn't matter as long as they alternate. Sit your flower aside and make another 7. We need to think about tails, beads and picots before starting round 1. For the tails, we're going to be working with 2 shuttles. This can be either continuous thread or 2 different colours. Continuous thread means having only 2 tails to hide at the end. Magic loops would go into our first and last chain. If you're working with 2 colours, you'll have 4 tails to hide, 2 at the beginning and 2 at the end. Tat over the first tail as you start ring A, place a magic loop in the other side, ready for the first end tail. You'll tat over the second start tail in the first chain and place a second magic loop ready for the second end tail as you work the last chain. For the beads, we need 32 beads loaded on shuttle 2. And lastly, the picots. The picots on our throne rings alternate between decorative and functional. Decorative and functional. Be sure to keep your functional picots small so that the flowers and split rings sit up nicely against round 1. I'm working with continuous thread. My beads are on shuttle 2. To start round 1, we're wrapping our hand for ring A and working 3, picot 3, picot 3, picot 3. Reverse your work and set up for a chain. We're working 3. Include your magic loop if you're using one. Now I'm working front side, back side, so I'm working the second half first, followed by the first half. If you're working traditionally, you'll continue to work first half, second half, no matter what side you're on. Ring B is a throne ring, so we're dropping shuttle 1 and picking up shuttle 2, wrapping our hand for the ring. Now we're still on the back side of our work. So if you're working front side, back side, ring B's also worked second half, first half. And again, if you're working traditionally, you'll continue with first half, second half. Links for the detailed tutorial on front side, back side tatting and throne rings are in the description box below. We have 3. A long picot and 3. The long picot measures 2 centimeters when it's open. We have another long picot and 2. We're ready to join to ring D on the small flower. Before we make that join, I want to look at which way is the right side up. This little band across the legs of the picot is what indicates the right side of the work. You'll see on the other side there is no band. The thread just goes straight through the middle of the picot. So traditional tatters don't have a right and wrong side. This band will be across the top of the picot for ring A on one side, and it will be across the picot for ring B on the other side. That's because ring B is a throne ring and it's coming off our chain, which is made when we're on the back side of our work. So when it comes to joining to the small flower for traditional tatters, it doesn't matter which way your flower is facing as long as they all face the same way. So if you join the first flower with the bands facing up, make sure the other flowers also face up when you join them back to round 1. If you're a front side, back side tatter, the flower is going to need to face bands down, and we'll be making a down join. So with the flower to the left of your thread, traditional tatters will be going down through the picot on ring D, pulling up a loop, passing your shuttle through that loop, and then wriggle and adjust to pull your join in. Front side, back side tatters need to have their flower with the little bands on the picots facing down, and we're making a down join. Pulling our working thread down, and our shuttle goes down through that loop, and wriggle and adjust. Once your flower is joined, we're continuing on the other side with 2. Now we have a long picot and 3, then another long picot and 3. Swap your shuttles and finish out the chain of 3. Now I'm going to be including the rest of my magic loop in the other side of that chain. Reverse your work. We're starting ring C with 3. Joining back to ring A. And continue with 3, picot 3, picot 3. Reversing our work, setting up for the next chain. Bring down a bead, let it sit at the back of your hand as you set your hand up for the chain. We have 3. Beaded picot, so bring that bead down, work your picot and 3. Reverse your work. Set up for ring D, which is 3. Join back to ring C. And finish ring D with 3, picot 3, picot 3. Reversing again. Start the next chain with 3. Swap shuttles for throne ring E. We have 3. We're making a normal join to the 3rd long picot on ring B. Because it's a long picot, it's going to be easier to join if we keep a little bit of tension on it. So as you pull your thread down, pass your shuttle through, you can see I'm keeping the picot taut as I make that join. We are working 3. we're joining to the 4th long picot, on ring B. We have 2, a joining picot, and 2, now we have a long picot, 3, and then a long picot and 3. Swap shuttles and complete the chain with 3 double stitches. Reverse your work to start ring F. Again, we're doing 3, joining back to ring D, and working 3, picot 3, picot 3. Reverse your work and get ready for the next beaded chain. There's a total of 64 rings and 32 thrown rings in this pattern. A small flower is attached to every 4th thrown ring. Work your way around, repeating what we just did until you have 63 rings and 31 thrown rings. I'll come back in a bit and show you how to finish off round 1 by connecting the 64th ring and the 32nd thrown ring back to the beginning. Okay, this is my 63rd ring. I've worked the first half of the chain and started the last thrown ring. You can see the first half of this thrown ring is worked the same way as we've been doing all along. We have 3 joined back to the 3rd long picot. We have another 3 joining back to the 4th long picot. We have 2, a picot and 2. We're now ready to join our last thrown ring back to the first one. So follow your work all the way around, making sure that it sits nice and flat. Bring the start of your work around to the end. Rotate the end of your work until the ring is upside down and the long picots sit to the left of our working thread. Move the rest of your work to slip it up and out of the way. We're going to join to the first long picot on that last ring. Work 3, Now we join to the second long picot on that ring. And work 3. Swap your shuttles and chain 3. Reverse your work. Set your hand up for the last ring. We have 3. Joining back to the previous ring. We're working 3 picot 3. We're working a folded join to join our last ring back to ring A. So you should have the loop around your hand. This is the thread that goes to our shuttle for our chains. We're folding that up. And over. And finishing that ring with 3. Reverse your work. And fold the top part of your work under to give you room to work the next chain. So our last chain has a bead on it, and we're working 3 picot 3. Remember to pop your magic loop in if you're working with one. We have some tails. Cut your shuttles off. Now I'm on the back side of my work, so I'm going to take my core thread through to the front, turn my work over so I can now pass it down through to the back. Just taking my magic loops out. I tuck them away because they can get in the way as I'm trying to work and drive me slightly nuts. Okay, so taking the core thread of your chain, put it onto a needle, and making sure you don't stab your magic loops. If you've used magic loops, we're taking the core thread down through ring A. Making sure I have a clear path. My core thread and my working thread. I'm going to tie them together in a square knot. So I'm going right over left, and now left over right. So hide your tails with whatever method you're using. Trim them off, and we're ready for round 2. And we're ready to block. Round 2 is a similar deal to round 1. We don't have beads this time, but we need to think about our tails again. I'm going to be using magic loops again. The first magic loop will go into the first few stitches on my first chain, and the last magic loop will go into the last few stitches in my last chain. We also need to think about which way is up when it comes to joining to the large flower. I'd suggest having the large flower face the same way as the small ones. So if the band across the legs of the picot face up on the small flower, then they also face up on the large flower. But that's up to you and the way you'd like it to be. Round 2 is started with a lock join. Before we work on our project, I wanted to explain the way I'm going to be working the lock join and why. We will be on the front side of our work. So to do the lock join so that it's technically correct, we would be going down through the picot, picking up a loop and running our shuttle up through that loop. You would then, if you can get hold of the thread, you would then start your chain. I am going to start my lock join by pulling the loop down and running my shuttle down through the loop. And then working my chain. I didn't give myself a long enough tail. So the reason that I'm going down instead of up is because, if I can get myself sorted, by going down, I don't get this colour blip. Both ways work, so choose the one you prefer. Okay, I'm working with continuous thread and lock joining to the small picot on ring A of our small flower. And we are chaining 30. So as I said, we're on the right side of our work. So if you're working front side, back side, you are doing the first half, followed by the second half. And include your magic loop if you're using them. If you don't get a nice curve to your chain, lay it flat in front of you, hold the core thread down and run your finger along the stitches. That's just going to loosen those stitches up a little bit, and then you can give it a bit more of a gentle snug and just play with the curve. Don't be afraid to play with it until you're happy with how it looks. Our next join needs to achieve 3 things. We need to join to ring F on the large flower. Our chain needs to change direction, and we need to come out from underneath the first chain. I'm going to work a sample to show you how to make this join. I'm going to work it in different coloured threads because that will make it easier for you to see what's happening. This represents our chain of 30. We're going to work a shoelace trick at the end of our chain. This ring represents ring F on our large flower. So we have 2 adjoining picot, 10, picot 6, picot 2. This is the picot we need to be joining to. So hold the end of the chain up against ring F, come up from underneath the picot and pull the core thread down through to the back. Pass the working thread down through the loop and hold the working thread against the ring, the back of the ring, as you pull the loop down. Both threads now come out under the first chain and to the left of ring F. Reverse your work and set up. Don't get tangled, and set up for chain 2. We're ready to continue with the split ring. So turning our work over, the chain of 30 comes in to ring F, changes direction and comes back out underneath the first chain. So I've chained 30, we're doing the shoelace trick. Getting our flower and pulling the core thread down through the picot on ring F, making sure our chain is right up against our ring. Pass the working thread down, hold it at the back of the flower, or you pull the core thread down. Reverse work. Chain 2. Now we're on the back of our work, so I'm working second half followed by the first half. Now because the direction of work continues straight from the chain, you can simply swap your shuttles and work the split ring on the back side if you wish. I prefer to reverse my work because that gives me the core thread to wrap my hand for split ring A. So we are working 1 picot 1 picot 1 picot 1 on both sides of the split ring. Reverse your work and chain 10. Reverse your work. Get ready for split ring B. Once again, the count is 1 picot 1 picot 1 picot 1 on each side. Reverse your work and chain another 10. Reversing our work again, setting up for split ring C. This time we have 1 picot 1 picot 1 picot 1 on the top side and 1 picot 1 picot 2 on the underside. Be aware that the last picot on the top side is a joining picot, so ring D can join back to ring C. So we need to keep this picot nice and tiny. Okay, so I've just finished making split ring C. We're going to use shuttle 2 to lock join split ring C to picot on the thrown ring H in round 1. So after closing your ring, you're swapping your shuttles and using shuttle 2 to lock join. So my shuttle is going down through that loop. Swap your shuttles and use shuttle 1 to work split ring D. So on the top side we are working 1 and joining back to split ring C. Then continuing with 1, picot 1, picot 1 on the top side, and on the underside we're working 2, picot 1, picot 1. Reverse your work and we're chaining 10. Reversing our work again, and split ring E is worked with 1, picot 1, picot 1, picot 1 on both sides. Reversing our work, we are chaining 10. Reversing our work for the last time, we're doing split ring F with 1, picot 1, picot 1, picot 1 on both sides. Reversing our work for the last chain, we're working 2. So I would suggest laying your work flat so you can see where you're at. We're now going to lock join our chain back to ring C on our flower. For this lock join, I'm going to go down through my picot. And pass my shuttle up through that loop, and that's all about disguising the colour blip between my green thread and my red, because now we reverse our work. And we're going to chain 30. Now we're lock joining to ring A of the next small flower. And we're ready to start our next chain of 30. So repeat what we just did all the way around to the last chain, and I'll come back and show you how to finish off. Okay, so that is our last chain. You can see I've included the magic loop in the back of my chain, so I'm going to cut both my shuttles off. And I'm going to use a needle to take my core thread through the back of the picot that we used to start. You could use a crochet hook as well. I just find a needle a little bit easier. Turn your work to the back. And we're going to tie off using a square knot. So we're going right over left, pull that in nice and tight, so it's going to bring our two chains together on the other side. So right over left, left over right, and now you can either sew your ends in or use your magic loops. Now we can trim our tails. Now this is a fairly open sort of a round. It has purposely been designed like that, but because of that, it's going to need to be blocked to make it sit nicely.
And that is it. We have a beautiful skirt to dress up our Christmas candle. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and are inspired to add a special handmade touch to your festive table, no matter the season. Wishing you all a wonderful and safe holiday period. From my family to yours, Merry Christmas.